Good afternoon, everybody. We hope you're having a lovely afternoon. No doubt most of you have watched the 1 o'clock briefing, and it's great to see that cases are going down. So today I am really delighted to have Jacqlin Richards. Hi, Jacqlin.
Hello, it's great to be here, Bridgette.
Join me today. Now, I'm going to talk about you nicely for a bit, Jacqlin.
Oh, lovely.
And then you can add anything you want to that. So you're a mother, you've got 2 boys, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you're a parent mentor, a speaker and facilitator, and you're deeply passionate about bringing greater awareness to the way we raise our children. Raising empowered children takes empowered parents, and that's just so true. And I love to walk alongside men and women as they empower themselves through my mentorship and programs in a very different way of being a parent. Would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I guess the thing that I would add on to that is that we're parenting in a very different world, right? Very different world. The world has changed significantly. We're all in circumstances that we never thought we'd be in. And the way it's time for the way that we parent to change with it. Yeah, that's what I would like to add. Yeah, new approaches, new tools, completely different way of parenting in this very different world is very much needed.
Yeah, I totally agree. So today we're talking about opening a vulnerable conversation with your child. So when we spoke before, jumping on this live, you were talking about a very different recipe for relating to our kids.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing a bit of cooking, aren't we? But not literally.
Not literally. I mean, I love to talk about things as a recipe because it's fun and it makes it light. And, sometimes being a parent is not that. So to lighten things, I talk about them as recipes, and because there's ingredients that you want to leave out of the recipe of trying to relate to your kids.
Oh, there certainly is. Yes.
Right? And
it's not just fast food, the amount of fast food that teenagers eat.
No. Some of this we have to let simmer for a while, and some of these ingredients have been simmering for far too long. That's and the ones that I talk about that have been simmering for far too long are the ones that we inherited from the past, right? It's what I playfully call it is when we dive into and get stuck in the we parent from the past trap. Yeah. And we start parenting like our parents parented us. Yeah. And it's not helpful for this very different recipe of relating that we need to start cooking with in the
Well, we do, because I'm just thinking about the way that my parents parent. They were wonderful parents, but I used to get tapped with wooden spoons and plastic spoons, and my favorite my favorite pastime was to take all those spoons, break them, and throw them down our garden, so there was no spoons to tap me with.
Yeah. I see. Yeah. And if we had been cooking in a different way, then the spoons would have been used for different things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this baking, this cooking, this recipe.
Yeah.
Tell me about what's in the recipe for parenting in a new way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest ingredient for me and for the parents that I work with is communication. It's starting to talk to our children in a really, really different way. And we called this live opening vulnerable conversations. And so communication is the biggest part of that. How do we talk to our kids so that not only so that they'll listen and they'll hear us, but how do we talk to them so that they are going to share with us what's really important? I don't know about you, but I just didn't have those conversations with my parents. Yeah, with what was really going on for me, because I just didn't feel like the space was open for that to happen. Yeah.
There's got to be openness for you to have those sort of conversations, isn't there? So why is it a recipe? I mean, it's why is it?
Well, for me, as I said before, there's ingredients that we want to leave out, right? There's ingredients that we really want to leave out. And one of the biggest ingredients that I have found that I wanted to leave out, and so many of the clients that I work with, is the everything's fine mask, right? the everything's fine, and not actually telling our kids what's really going on. Yeah, what's really going on for us, what's really going on sort of, in the circumstances that we're in. And it comes around this way, or this approach of just telling our kids what to do. Yeah, we tell them what to do, and it's like this constant stream of telling them what to do, and that's all they hear. Yeah, don't do this, don't do that. Wear it this way, wear it that way. Do this, not do that, and it's just a constant stream of telling our kids what to do, but it's not actually coming from a vulnerable place in ourselves.
And in saying that, though, Jacqlin, there is a caveat there, isn't there, that, as I say to my clients as they're going through divorce and separation, there are some things that children just don't, and teenagers do not need to know about.
Totally. And, we don't want to use our kids as our own therapists and our own counselors and places to vent, but we do want to be vulnerable with them. And the reason why we want to leave this ingredient out, this old way of not sharing with them, is that a lot of the time, well, all of the time, I'm going to say all of the time, kids make it about them. Yeah, they make it about them. Yeah, if something's going on with mum, something's wrong with me. It's my fault. And so much of the time when I'm just having a shitty day, if I'm having a crappy moment, I say to my kids, you know what, it's not you guys. I just got all this stuff going on, and I'm just having a moment. And then they go, I've actually watched the relief lift off them, because they're like, oh, it's not me, because that's what kids do. They make it about them. And when we can vulnerably share that, hey, you know what, it's not you guys are awesome. There's just a whole lot of stuff going on at the moment that I'm trying to work through as an adult, and sharing it in that way. Yeah, sharing it in that way. So it's not like we have to delve into the depths of, all of the detail, but to be able to share with them, even in the way that I've just described, is, let's face it, a lot more than our parents gave us when we were growing up, because it was all behind closed doors, and it was all under the rug, and that everything's fine mask that I was talking about. And the issue with that is that our kids can feel it. They know when shit's going down. They know when stuff is going on. And when we say everything's fine, everything's fine, nothing to see here, happy, happy, joy, joy, it confuses them, because they can feel that something's not right, but mum's saying everything's okay, and that makes them feel uncomfortable. And that's where this lack of feeling safe happens for our kids. They grow up not feeling safe because they're getting this incongruency, right? Something doesn't add up here. So that everything's fine mask is an ingredient that we want to kick to the curb and just get out of our recipe.
Yeah. So obviously chocolate isn't the biggest ingredient in terms of is that right? Unfortunately, from my perspective.
Well, it kind of is in my world at the moment, but that's all good. I am enjoying my chocolate, I must say.
Same. Yep.
So the ingredient that I've been talking about is the vulnerability, being able to stop telling our kids what to do, and share from our own experience instead. And I had a conversation with my little fella this morning, and I just said, dude, I'm really missing my friends at the moment. I really am. It's like a Zoom call just it's just not the same. I just really would love to have a hug with one of my friends. And that opened up the conversation with them, with him, I should say, just for him to be able to say, yeah, Mum, I am too, and I think so often we don't share vulnerably for a number of reasons, but we don't share vulnerably because we think that it's going to encourage our kids to kind of, slump down, or kind of go down a hole of despair, or, encourage them to sort of feel even worse. But what it actually does is it gives them permission to feel okay about how they're feeling, not to not make it wrong, and to not just expect them to pick themselves up and to, to just be happy, joy in circumstances that are very, very different at the moment.
So we talked earlier in this live about leaving ingredients out. What are those ingredients that need to be left out? I'm sure there's many.
Yeah, there are many. I mean, a lot of the time it's definitely going back into that we parent from the past trap, and the old ways of doing things, which don't support us at the moment, making things wrong and bad, like I know a lot of clients out there at the moment are having real challenges around screen time because their kids are on screens a lot more at the moment, right? So a lot of the charge that comes from the past, comes from the way that our parents did it, we're bringing into our present reality, and it's starting to really, really impact the way that we're talking to our kids. So, it's these old ingredients that we just need to have a look at and see what it is that we're actually pulling through. A lot of the time, it's not having these conversations. It's not being honest with our kids about what's going on. It's not sharing in a way that invites them to want to talk to us about stuff that's going on. It's the biggest thing that I really want to leave parents with this live is that we need to leave out this old ingredient of not being open with our kids, of not sharing with our kids in a vulnerable way.
Yeah.
So
we talked about vulnerability being the main ingredient, well, the first ingredient that goes into your recipe, your parenting recipe. What ingredients do we use instead of those ones that we don't want?
Yeah, the old ones. Yeah.
And the parenting take.
We need to put some new ingredients into this mix, right?
Yeah.
And there's definitely, there's a number of ingredients that I spoke into at a recent live event. There was a Thriving Teens and Tweens event that I was speaking at. And in this recipe, there were a number of things like, bringing the best energy that we can bring to our lives as parents. I know that the situation that we're in is not the easiest thing to be in. And this speaks to, the point that we sort of raised before, Bridgette, about, not using our kids as our therapists and as our counselors, and to sort of vent a lot of our own frustration and our own uncertainty of the circumstances. To be able to use friends and family outside of our interaction and our relationship with our kids, so that we can bring the best energy that we can. Yeah, I call it yes energy, and the way that I talk around that is like, okay, how can I be a yes to what's happening at the moment? Even if it isn't uncomfortable, how can I be a yes to it?
Yes, energy.
How can I be a yes to bringing different ingredients to this recipe of relating to my kids in a different way? And, I've started our day every morning with music. Music is just one of the things that helps me stay in my own yes energy. And I remember finding this ingredient, the music ingredient, because I took my kids away and it was just us. And, there were definitely moments where I was like, oh, and I just said, right, someone go and get the speaker. Let's put some music on. And it just shifted the energy, right? It shifted the vibe or the dynamic between us. So bringing yes energy and doing whatever you need to do to get that yes, to get more yes energy into your life. And at the moment, we're quite limited on what that is. So it instead of sort of going out for a massage or going out for dinner with a friend, it becomes, mum needs to take 20 minutes and go and have a bath. Yeah. So no interruptions for 20 minutes. Mum, that's what mum's got to do. And finding space for that, finding space to create that. And a lot of us as parents fall into another trap that I love to talk about, and it's called the we put our needs last trap. Right. And if you're stuck in that trap, then it's really not an easy thing to get this yes energy that I'm talking about.
No.
If you're last on the list and your needs are not important, and it even gets to the level of not allowing ourselves to even have needs as parents. It's like we're so busy looking after everybody else that we completely deny the fact that we have needs.
And that's where you lose yourself, isn't it? You lose your identity and your purpose when you feel when you are putting yourself last. It's really important that people keep themselves in optimal health and put themselves selfishly, in a good way, in a positive way, put themselves first before others, because you can't look after others, children, etc., unless you are able to, look after yourself first.
Totally. And I mean, I've actually found Facebook groups that are, I put my children in front of me. They're the most important thing in my world. And, and I totally get that. However, if our tanks are not full, then we can't support our children to learn how to fill their tanks for a start. But we are running around with depleted and, tanks with holes in them, just losing all the energy and the juice and the yes that we have. And we're not able to bring the best of ourselves to our parenting. We're bringing the what's left of ourselves. So it's a huge thing, and we do absolutely fall into that trap as parents. And the most significant piece to share in this, which actually trips a lot of parents out of that trap, they start to go, right, I need a rope, somebody throw me one, is that when we do that, and a lot of us do it out of love, right? We think we're loving our kids because we're putting them first and we're putting ourselves last. However, all we're doing is teaching them how to do the same thing. And that's massive, because most of us, when we learn that, I mean, when that piece dropped in for me, I was like, oh my God, I want the opposite for my kids. I want them to ensure that they are putting their own needs first, that their own needs are at the top of the list, so that, that they grow up to not fall into the trap like I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that we all, the parenting, there is no parenting manual. And, mine got lost in the post like everyone else's did, didn't they?
Yep.
Still waiting.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have to actually find new awareness and new, oh my goodness, new understanding, so that we can actually create our own manual. Yeah.
So how do we all do this as parents a different way?
Yeah. Well, I think, the biggest way is to haul ourselves out of these traps for a start. God, we really need to get ourselves out of these traps. And I know for me, it took working with a parent mentor. So I have my own parent mentor to help me do this, because a lot of this stuff is so unconscious, we can't see it. It's just running the show, and we're just stuck in these patterns of the past. And that's why I have absolutely no blame or resentment for either of my parents, because they were simply doing the best they could with the tools that they had
at that time. Which is much time to what we are now.
Totally. And I wanted to find some new tools. So, finding these new ingredients was the biggest part for me, was to actually, and this goes aligned with what we were just talking about, to stop making it about my kids. I get a lot of people coming to me and say, can you just fix my kids? Just sort my kids out. And it's like, and I just hold up a mirror and say, okay, this is where we're going to start. Because our kids are little mirrors, they simply reflect what's going on.
Role model what we're doing.
Us. We need to be the change we want to see, right? So we actually need to get to know ourselves, because we are we're the biggest player in this game. We're the biggest ingredient in this recipe. And if we've got a bit of a recipe for disaster going on, then it has to start here. It has to start here. It doesn't start with our kids. So we have to know what's going on for us. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk about what's standing in the way of, as parents, doing this. And I think that being stuck in our stories and not be able to think that we can actually change the way that we parent is an issue for a lot of people. It's that old saying, isn't it? If you keep doing the same thing, you get the same result. And absolutely. Not a good result in some cases.
No, and it's like, sometimes we think we just keep banging our head up against the same wall that, something will change. And it's just not the case. We really have to be willing to do something different. We really have to be willing to, invest in ourselves and our relationships, because that is, for me, that's the most important thing. My kids are going to be around for the rest of my life. And I know that when I first had kids, you kind of focused on the birth. It's like, just get me through the birth. And, it's like the whole rest of our lives is like the long-term picture here, right? They're going to be around forever.
People are really concerned about their birth plan. That's their main focus, what that looks like. But don't worry about that. That's a few hours, or maybe more than a few hours. You've really got to focus on the next, sort of 20 plus years, actually making sure that they end up being a really good human in the society.
Totally. The birth is a blip on the timeline of the bigger picture. So, the most important thing that we can do is invest in ourselves and our relationships with our kids, with our families. And, the way into that is to learn more about ourselves, learn why we parent the way we do. Yeah, because there is a reason why. And when we can find out that why, we can start to shift it. We can start to do things differently. And, because a lot of the time we don't know what's going on for us. We're disconnected from how we're actually feeling what's going on for us. And I mean, there's no question why that is, because we're so damn busy. At the moment, parents are parenting. They're trying to work from home if they can, and they're stretched in multiple different directions.
Managing the schoolwork.
Yeah, and they're a teacher as well, and I think right now during this time that we're presently in, it's shining a big old light on the way that we parent.
Yeah. Parting words from you?
Parting words. Well, the biggest thing that I can say is to bring the focus back to yourself. Yeah, because as I said, a lot of people want the kids to be sorted out. They want to empower their kids, but they're not empowering themselves. And it's like, that's actually the process. It's the other way around to what most people think. If I can just get my kids the tools, if I can get them the help and support, and that's great, it's definitely valid. However, when we put the focus on ourselves, it goes to them organically. Yeah, it feeds through them organically. And it's a really beautiful thing, because we are actually creating the life that we would love to live with our children. Yeah, now, while we're still a parent, while, not having to push pause on our lives and wait for our kids to grow up, we can create the relationships that we love now. And that is a huge, huge piece.
So how can parents contact you if they're needing support with developing their new recipe?
Yep. Developing this new recipe. Oh my goodness, because I've got so many tools and so many different approaches to support parents in doing things a different way. And it's not rocket science when you come down to it. It is different, and you've got to be willing to step into something that's different. But the easiest way to find me is on Facebook. I have a Your Parent Journey page. I have a really, really cool Your Parent Journey group, which is full of, very, very awesome, incredible parents who want to do things differently. I do have my website, which is www.yourparentjourney.com. And of course, you can find my phone numbers and everything, email addresses and ways to contact me through my Facebook page. That's the best place to find me.
Well, thank you. That's been really insightful. I think we're probably all going to go off and think about our parenting recipe, as well as obviously everyone's going to think about what they're going to be having for dinner and what they're going to be baking this afternoon and putting on their social media.
Totally, because it's all about the food at the moment. I'm like feeling my trousers are feeling a bit tighter because let's face it, there's a lot to do around food at the moment, because it's one way to beautifully connect with our family at the moment when we're at home. So
sitting down and having meals together. Yeah,
sitting
absolutely.
down and having meals. It's the simple things at the moment. Yeah.
It really is. So thank you very much, Jacqlin, for joining us. Jacqlin's one of our expert advisors. So some of you will have the privilege and opportunity to meet her in the future. And if anyone's got any questions, do reach out. Jacqlin's details will be on our Facebook Live. The questions and your contact details will be on there. And Jacqlin will be joining me again very soon for another Facebook Live. So love to everyone. And the old stay safe, stay well, and we will catch up again very, very soon. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.